Summer heat is the most lethal worm killer, but we're going to teach you how to sidestep it and keep your worm bin going. My name is Steve Churchill, and this is the Urban Worm Company. Worms survive in nature just fine without our help, but when we put them in man-made environments, it's kind of up to us to help keep them cool during the hot summer months. Worms, like most animals, enjoy temperatures in the same range as we do. 72 degrees is generally perfect. 55 degrees gets uncomfortably chilly, and 90 degrees is a bit muggy. When it comes to your worm bin, it's no different. But if your worm bin gets below 55 degrees, the worms will survive, and their cocoons will definitely survive far colder temperatures than that. Actually, freezing your worms to death can take a while, but if your vermicompost gets above 95 degrees, it's going to be lights out pretty quickly for your entire population. I want to start with a quick science lesson here. You'll notice that I said the temperature in the vermicompost, not the outside air temperature. While the ambient air around your bin certainly has an effect on the vermicompost, your worm compost temperature will not rise or fall as quickly. The phenomenon we're talking about here is thermal mass. This term is used in building and insulation and refers to a material's ability to absorb, store, and release heat. Your bin has some amount of thermal mass due to the vermicompost inside it. What this means is that the temperature inside your vermicompost during the hottest parts of the day will not likely be as high as the outside temperature. As the day warms up, your worm bin will warm up too, but at a slower rate. The same thing happens at night. The heat that your vermicompost was soaking up during the day gets retained to a degree, so your vermicompost temperature will decline more slowly. Bottom line, your worm bin will not fluctuate as much or as quickly as the outside air temperature. It should be cooler than the outside temperature during the day, but warmer than the outside temperature at nighttime. This is more true the larger your worm bin is, and especially if it's on the ground or in the ground, where you can take advantage of the mother of thermal mass, which is planet Earth. As you're probably aware, you only have to go about 6 feet down and the temperature remains stable all year round. So even if temperatures exceed 95 degrees during the day, you should use a thermometer to check the temperature in your vermicompost to make sure you've got an issue. You could make my day and buy an Urban Worm soil thermometer, or you could use any soil thermometer for that matter. I even used my wife's meat thermometer to measure the temps in my compost before. She didn't like that. So if you take the temperature inside your vermicompost and find you do need to change things up, here are a few things you can do. 1. Move your worm bin indoors if your family or roommates will allow it. Now, I put this advice in the no Sherlock category. Now, if you live in an area where you've got a basement, that's perfect. It's typically humid, but also cool thanks to, you guessed it, the Earth's thermal mass. If you don't have a basement, a utility room is a good place too. 2, if you can't get your worm bin indoors, at least move it to some ventilated area where it won't receive direct sunlight. Garages may protect against direct sunlight, but they also tend to be poorly ventilated, so I wouldn't push for this in hotter states. A ventilated carport or patio should work just fine. 3, reduce nitrogen and increase carbon in your bin. Adding food waste or other nitrogen-rich waste like manure can boost microbial activity. Now, we normally like microbial activity, but it also produces heat. So in the summer, I'd go ahead and sacrifice some food waste recycling capacity in order to keep temperatures lower. When we were doing mid-scale vermicomposting here, we always noticed about a 2-day bump in our vermicompost temperature when we fed. You can also add a top layer of dry carbon-rich bedding like shredded paper and cardboard. You can scrape this layer aside when doing subsequent feedings and replace it when you're done. This helps provide a layer of insulation that helps buffer against temperature extremes. Real quick, guys, if you're enjoying this video and want me to make more of them, please like this video, hit subscribe, and click that little bell to let you know every time we release a new video. All right, now back to keeping your worms cool. Number 4, you can add bottles of ice to the worm bin. And this is a great hack. Take 2 or more plastic bottles, like a single-use water bottle or used Gatorade bottle, or of course several of them. Fill them about 3/4 full of water and throw them in your freezer. You want them less than full because the volume of that water will expand almost 10% when it turns into ice. Just place 1 or more of these water bottles in your worm bin every day, removing it either at night or the next morning, which is when you'll put in your next ice bottle in the worm bin. The constant radiation of cool air will help keep temps manageable. Now, I want to stress that you don't want to put ice itself in your worm bin, because when it thaws, the added water can boost microbial activity and also help conduct heat throughout your worm bin, which we don't want. 5, the next thing you can try is evaporative cooling. So you know how a moist cloth on your forehead feels good on a hot day? That's because evaporating water is pulling heat away from your head. Now, these evaporative coolers or swamp coolers can get pretty involved, but here's a simple way to try it. Open the top of your Urban Worm bag or your worm bin and drape a moist towel over the top. Now run a fan over the top of the towel to pull that hot, humid air away from your vermicompost. This is the simplest form of evaporative cooling you can try. One thing I should note here is that evaporative cooling works best in hot, dry climates like Arizona and New Mexico. It won't work as well in Florida and Georgia, where evaporation into already muggy air is more difficult. 6, Lastly, if you can't help but keep your bin outside and exposed to the sun, you can use a reflective solar material to drape over your worm bin. This stuff will help deflect that radiation outwards, about 95% of that heat outwards, and keep your bin from absorbing most of the heat raining down onto your bin. So you've got 6 great tips here, and there's nothing saying you can't combine 2 or more of these hacks to keep your worm bin temperature manageable. Summer heat can be brutal for worms in a man-made environment like a worm bin, but some common sense mixed with a bit of science can help us keep our bins going throughout the summer. Another common sense move for you right now is to download the PDF version of our Ultimate Guide to Vermicomposting. This 60+ page resource covers anything from the basics of vermicomposting, how to start and maintain a worm bin, and how to keep your bin surviving during the summer, and the financial opportunities in vermicomposting and more. Just click this little link above my left shoulder and you can sign up to get that guide immediately. All right, that's it. We're going to see you on the next video.